back to The Forge, Episode 2, where 2 enter and 1 leaves beaten, bruised, and shaped. I'm your host, Tiny Grimes, and I'm joined, as always, by my intrepid co-host, Jake Almighty. And this week we have 2 tournament titans joining us in Noetherian and Dark Soul SP. And so before we get started, I'm going to introduce both of them briefly to you, just in case, by some amazing miracle, you don't know these individuals. So, to put it simply, describing Noetherian, when I joined the game, he was just the best player in the game, period. It was more of a fact than a debatable topic. So this is prior to the open beta. He was a tournament all-star. He won the very first Soulforge tournament in fall 2012. If you don't know what that means, in closed beta, well, at the beginning of closed beta at least, you couldn't play another person. You could only play the computer. So what people would do is they would make text-based games. And I don't exactly know how they pulled this off, but they had these tournaments which were much more involved than what we currently play. And Noetherian was dominant in this area. And he did very well in a number of these text-based tournaments and won many of them. And additionally, he started a series of Soulforge strategy articles. This is back when there was really nothing else around, and these were critical as foundational tools for anyone coming into the game, such as myself. I know they were part of my gateway into the game. And so for those of you who might be newer to Soulforge and weren't around in the closed beta days, you may just simply know Noetherian as that amazing guy who's like the wizard behind the scenes and helps ensure the longevity of the game by running tournaments, including what was the amazing Forge Watch Invitational, and there will be more of them to come. But just in case you had forgotten, the Noetherian is a dominant tournament player. He carried single-handedly on his back his team to the team tournament title. Now, the rest of his teammates might disagree with that assertion, but that's what I'm going with today. The other person we have joining us today, and not very kind to call him the other person, is Dark Soul SP. And Dark Soul has a litany of tournament accomplishments. He took first place in a large unlegendary tournament. He took first place in a Forge Watch Standard tournament. He took second place in an unheroic tournament. And he made the top 8 in the Forge Watch Invitational. So not only does he dominate standard tournaments, apparently this man dominates any tournament you place in front of him. He would probably dominate a common-only tournament, for all we know. All right, Jake, let's take a look at these deck lists. So let's start with Noetherian's list. What do you make of Noetherian's list here?
You know, I saw Noetherian's list for the first time the other day, and I immediately thought maybe he was a little bit crazy.
A little bit crazy?
A little bit crazy.
I thought he might be a lot crazy.
A lot crazy, yeah. It's not the kind of deck that I would ever personally play, just because of how I play the game. But it is very, very interesting, and he has some really cool card choices that I think are definitely going to shape the way he plays the game today in this best of 5.
Yeah, I'm especially impressed by his decision to play Echo Wisp. I know we've been talking about this, and I think Echo Wisp is actually placed very well right now. It feels like Epidemic, it just isn't as good with the Weirwood Patriarch hanging around. People aren't just automatically putting 3 in every deck. They're not splashing Necreum just to have 3 Epidemics. I feel like Echo Wisp is kind of a risky choice, but a really good choice right now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. And the other part is that, you know, he's playing Echo Wisp in a Patriarch deck. So Epidemic is only really good against the Echo Wisp in his deck. The rest of the cards, if he Epidemics the rest of the cards, he's able to grow them back up with the Patriarch. So you're making him level these Epidemics that aren't good against the majority of the deck. Or Echo Wisp is getting away completely unpunished, in which case it's one of the best cards in the game.
Exactly. I like that very much. Of course, Thundersaur is positioned very well right now. The big question marks to me are the Rageborn Hellion Zix combination. I'm having sort of a hard time figuring out why these cards are included in the list. And what's your theory on why they're included?
Well, I mean, Rageborn has been around, I guess, for a little while in these types of UT lists. He grows with Patriarch. He's one of those guys that can really snowball the game in your favor. If you can, if you get a Rageborn 2 down and buff it up, and then start attacking successfully, you can just win the game right there. Same as with a Grimgaunt Devourer sort of deal. The Zix is really interesting to me because I've never had any success with that card at all. He obviously has synergy with the Rageborn, as does the Ashurian Mystic. And, the buffing suite, I think, goes really well with all those cards. The Enrages, the Ferocious Roars, the movement, the extra movement, I should say, you can get with Fervent Assault. If you put Fervent Assault on a Zix, he can just move all over the place and do crazy shenanigans.
Yeah,
or force through damage to a Rageborn. I think it's a high synergy deck that also runs a lot of power cards.
Yeah, I agree. I actually like the list very much. I fear for Notherian and his list in certain matchups, though. Like matchups that are already filling the board with a lot of creatures. It feels like it's going to be hard to punch through those attacks where you're going right to their face to grow the Hellion. It feels like against decks that are running heavy removal, by putting so many eggs in one basket of trying to grow these characters, you're now growing the Thundersaur, you're growing the Hellion, you're using Enrages to do this, you're trying to grow Mystics. It feels vulnerable to things like hard removal from NT removal or even NU Blightwalker decks.
Yeah, I think Blightwalker is probably one of the best cards against a deck like this. But he's well positioned in general.
I think this will be an interesting list. I very much look forward to how Notherian plays this list because I see how it plays in the best case scenario. You're getting down guys, you're buffing them, you're moving them around, everything's working perfectly. The question will be, what happens if your opponent runs enough removal where they are disrupting these plans? How does this deck work in more of a worst case situation?
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to watching because I know how I would approach playing the deck in a subpar situation, but I really like to see how he plays the deck in a subpar situation because he's a great player with a lot of experience. So
exactly,
definitely looking forward to that.
And I got to admit, I miss Botanimate in this build. I mean, if you're gonna run Utera, Patriarch's really good. Stuff like Grimgaunt Devourer trying to grow out of control is really good. I just feel like 2 Botanimates is really, really useful in this deck. And so that's one of the first things I'm going to ask Notherian is how he thinks he can get away with not running Botanimates. And I guarantee he has a plan. I just want to hear it from him.
Yeah, fair enough. Absolutely.
Okay, so let's go ahead and put this list back where we found it. And let's bring out our second list. Dark Soul SP. What is happening here? Sorry about that. Here we go. Let's enlarge this a little bit so you can see it. And this is his list. And if you notice, it is the list that we mentioned might have some cards that would cause problems for Notherian's list.
Yeah, for sure.
Most importantly, the Blightwalker, 3 of them. So this looks like a fairly standard UN list to me. You've got the Devourers, the Predators, the Thundersaurs. The Succubus are really annoying depending on the deck you're playing against. I know I like to play the Growbots deck. I hate seeing the Succubus. It's the most annoying card that ever existed. It's hard to remove, and it just screws with you the whole game.
Yeah, if he buffs the Witherfrost Succubus, it can be incredibly difficult to get it off the board. Yes, because you have to do it entirely in combat on your own turn. Because on his turn, whatever is opposite that thing is going to die for free.
Yeah. There's definitely some oddities to this deck. There's very little removal. When he first sent me the deck, I was astounded to see only 1 Dreadbolt. And my first thought was, if Notherian submits a Growbots deck and just prioritizes Gargoyle, this could potentially be an ugly matchup. How is he going to handle Gargoyles running all around with only 1 Dreadbolt?
Yeah, it's interesting. Dark Soul SP is a man with no fear of the gargoyle, in my experience. That or he just really hates Dreadbolt. One of the two. Because he did the same thing with his invitational list. Yeah, I think he had one Dreadbolt in his deck. And that's it in that kind of move. Like, he has the Culls, because Cull is, it kills a lot of things right now. And I think it's actually really good against a lot of Notherian's deck. It's strong against Thundersaurs, against level 1 Patriarchs if necessary. Rageborn Hellions is a great target for it if you can catch it before it gets fucked out.
But if you look carefully, he's not running Culls. He's actually
I have
removed
Culls
them
on my
from
list.
this list.
Well, then my list is out of date then.
Oh. Uh-oh. Is there a problem?
Is your list 30 cards?
Oh, no, he does have Cull. Okay.
Aha, yeah, there's 3 Culls at the bottom of that list.
I was going to say,
So,
that's pretty surprising. Yeah, so this list actually has 3 more Culls. Jake made a mistake and didn't put all the cards on this list.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
Okay, good. So he does have the Culls. I thought he did. I was very surprised just now as I'm looking through it going, what? He has no Culls? Yeah, so I guess he's thinking that Cull is situated well enough in this environment where it takes out nearly everything, and it's just really a couple cards that's not getting hit by either Basher or Cull. And so he's got that Dreadbolt sort of in his back pocket that if he sees a lot of gargoyles, he can make sure he levels the one Dreadbolt and have that answer. That would be my guess.
Yeah, well, the other thing, too, is he has three Witherfrost Succubus, which really expands the range of his Culls as well.
Yes.
He can use a trigger plus a Cull on a gargoyle, for example, and knock it out outright.
Yep. All right, so let's go ahead and look at these decks side by side for a moment. And who do you think is going to win this matchup? I like to give you first opportunity to hang yourself and make the wrong choice before I weigh in with the correct choice. As has been proven to be the case, you are 0-1 and I am 1-0.
Yeah, that is true. I did pick the wrong champion last week, didn't I? Against some of my better judgment. Okay. Well, I picked for this week, I have to pick Dark Soul SP. I think that Necrium has an advantage in this kind of match. I find that the Necrium Utera Patriarch decks are usually a pretty strong counter to the other Patriarch decks, in my experience. So I picked Dark Soul. I don't think it'll be a 3-0 because I think Notherian has some really crazy draws he can pull off. Some, all it takes is one ridiculous Zix game, and Dark Soul will be a 0 out of nowhere. But I do pick Dark Soul as the winner.
Yeah, I really, really want to pick Notherian. I like how interesting his list is. I think Notherian is perhaps my idol in the Soulforge universe. But that being said, I cannot get around how huge of an answer Blightwalkers seem to be to Notherian's entire plan. And I got to assume that Notherian has a plan to deal with Blightwalkers, and I can't wait to see it. But me, as the inferior player that I apparently am, look at this matchup and say, Blightwalker just wrecks everything Notherian's trying to do. I'm terrified for Notherian in this matchup. So I, too, am going to pick Dark Soul SP as the champion. So we will see who is right, you or I.
Just to point out, you specifically mentioned the lack of Botanimate in Notherian's list against, for example, Devourer decks. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what Dark Soul's playing. He has 3 Predators and 3 Devourers. All it takes is one out of control and the game is over.
Yeah, it's like I said, I'm definitely worried for Notherian. But let's go ahead and bring in our first challenger. Not Notherian, the Notherian. So hold on just a moment. Oh, what's going on here? There we go. All right. So welcome, Notherian. How are you doing?
Hey, doing well. Looking forward to a great match.
All right. And we have some questions for you, Notherian.
Sure.
What is going on with this deck?
So it's possible that I'm a little bit crazy, but I love playing the most aggressive thing that is viable in the format. And so I've been looking around for fast decks. In particular, fast decks that include Tempest have always been my favorite thing to play in SoulForge. And I think this is a good example of what Tempest can do in the current metagame. Obviously, with support from Utera, because Utera is just an incredible support support faction right now for most decks that you want to run.
Okay. My next question is, in choosing Echo Wisp, did you do it because you have no fear of Epidemic, or are you just thinking people are running a little bit less Epidemic right now? Why did you choose Echo Wisp?
So I think that Echo Wisp actually isn't seeing as much play as it should in the current metagame. If people want to level epidemics against me, that's perfectly fine. I generally try to get out an Echo Wisp relatively early in the matchup and see whether my opponent epidemics it. If they don't epidemic it, I'll level every Echo Wisp that I find. And if they do epidemic it, that's okay, because with the Patriarchs in the deck, nothing else that I run is afraid of epidemic. And so if they want to have a leveled epidemic, that's really not a problem.
Yeah, that's what we had assumed.
Yeah.
So we have a couple more questions. First of all,
Sure.
would be, you're not running Botanimate, which leaves you with very little removal. What gives you the confidence to think that you can get away with having very little removal?
Yeah, so I think that playing without Botanimate is probably a high risk, high reward strategy. I'm not convinced that it's wise. I was going back and forth about that over the course of the past week. It's possible that the Botanimate version of the deck is slightly better. So I don't fear things like Grimgaunt Devourer, Grimgaunt Predator. I've matched up really well against those decks because with the combination of Mystic, Basher, and Fervent Assault, it's not too hard to get those troublesome creatures off the board quickly. Also, Thundersoar always does a lot of work for dealing with Predator in particular. Devourer in particular. It's not so good against Predator, but it's a good Devourer answer. So I haven't really missed it against those Necreum Grow cards. Also, the whole theme of the deck is punishing your opponent for not blocking. So I think there's a lot of decks out there in the current metagame, including those Arcflight Squadron decks, those Grimgaunt Devourer decks, that want to play a creature into an empty lane so that they can grow it or so that they can use the activated ability on it. And this is a deck that tries to keep pressure on you continuously. Every time you don't block, you're in danger that I'm going to toss down a Rageborn Hellion, roar it, or Patriarch it, and you're in a world of hurt. So I'm not worried about those cards. That being said, the two cards that I hate the most when I'm playing this deck are Succubus and Blightwalker. So I think Dark Soul certainly picked the right matchup. I definitely like playing against the Thunderbot style decks or the Tempest Necreum decks. There's the Devourer with Tempest instead of the Devourer with Utera. I've had quite a bit of success against those in the constructed tournament queues. On the other hand, I don't see Dark Souls style of deck played very often. To your audience, if you haven't tried Dark Souls deck, you should. It's really good, and because no one's playing it, I haven't worried too much about how good my matchup was. So I'm really interested to see how this will go. I don't have a lot of experience playing against Dark Souls deck.
Luckily, you'll have plenty of games to figure it out here.
At least 3.
I'm not going to give him a 3-0. No, we're going to take this to 5 today and give your audience their money's worth.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so
like
you're
to hear.
predicting at least 5. Are you predicting a victory for yourself today?
I'd like to think that I can pull it off, but I got to tell you, Dark Soul brought the right deck to the matchup. He's a great player, and so it's possible that he might sneak out that 5th game to win 3-2. I don't think it's likely, but it could happen.
Okay, fair enough.
Fair enough.
Well, let's bring in our second contestant.
Oh, there's people in chat calling it 3-0 Nefarian.
All right. So
All right,
welcome
hello,
to the show, Dark Soul.
All right, let's do it. I'm getting pumped up.
All right. So how do you think, or what do you think about your possibility of winning this particular matchup?
Well, I'll tell you right now. Just completely ignoring the decks, completely ignoring all of that. I have a bit of a grudge against Netherian, as I posted on Facebook. All right, I love Netherian to death. He's a great guy, overworked. He really pulled his weight in the Forge Watch Invitational, but he gave me a Woebringer instead of the Thundersore that I asked, and that doesn't sit well with me. I'm out for blood.
That's probably the meanest thing I've ever heard. That would be like saying, "Hey, I really want a new Lamborghini, honey," and she's like, "Here's the minivan."
Yeah, that's basically it. Especially if the person giving you the Lamborghini is like Santa Claus. I mean, Netherian is literally like mythical. He is a great guy. But yeah, I'm Dark Soul SP. I'm a dark guy, and I have no problem saying I'm going to take you down today, Netherian.
All right. I do have a question for you, though. Looking at your list, it looks like a pretty standard list. I was surprised to see only one Dreadbolt. What gives you the confidence to think you only need one Dreadbolt?
Well, I have such a love-hate relationship with these level up or these level-based removal cards. Botanimate, obviously a great card. Dreadbolt, a great card as well. But I really hate them, and I actually hate playing them in multiples. I really do. Mostly just because those other cards that you're not playing just become so dead. They're like I hate seeing level 1 Dreadbolts in my hand, rank 2. I hate seeing all of that, and so the way I'm playing the deck is very proactive. It's not so, obviously, Gargoyle is like a big issue, right? Gargoyle is probably the biggest Dreadbolt target. But there are multiple ways to deal with that card. An Epidemic plus a Coal is like decent. Witch on the field plus a Coal. I feel that Coal overall is more, it's less restrictive, and I always want to play it and I always want to see it. Where Dreadbolt is a little more situational, and I'd rather just be advancing my board than trying to react to something.
Okay, I think we can agree with that. Any questions for this competitor, Jake?
Really, I just agree with how he's approaching it. I like Cull a lot better, as he said, especially because he has so many options to extend the power of Cull that it's just a better Dreadbolt in his deck.
Oh yeah, I totally agree, especially with Succubus on the field. I mean, it hits everything. It really does. And it scales well. Level 1 Coal can hit a level 2 Thundersoar if they're particularly greedy. It's just a great card. I like it a lot.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to the matchup. We have both predicted that you would win, so you can't let us down.
You must have heard the story then. I have a lot on the line here. I have a lot on the line.
And one last thing that I didn't mention last time. Don't feel like you need to play your turn slow, but do take a couple moments before you play your cards. That way, Jake and I have a chance to incorrectly predict what you will be playing.
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's bring our game board up here.
Okay.
And we have both hands available to us again, as we did last week. So let's go ahead and get this match started up.
All right.
Oh, yeah. So am I ending the call or?
No, just go ahead and put yourself on mute. You have to keep the call up so we can have your hand going.
Okay. So.
Yeah, just mute your microphone. And there's an option to mute your sound if you don't want to hear us.
I'm like the biggest Skype noob ever. Like,
I think you can just click on that microphone button that's right there. Just click that. There you go. Now you're muted.
But even though I can hear you, like that's totally okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Right. You're muted now. And then just there you go. You're all set. All right. So it looks like Dark Soul is first. I didn't see what he played there. Oh, he's just dropping a Blightwalker into an empty board.
He doesn't really have another option here. As I've taught you the hard way, you should never, ever empty lane a basher in the game.
I mean, I
It
think
doesn't
against,
end well.
in this matchup you could do it a little more.
You're right. It's not so bad here. He's not going to get brutally punished here. But against most other decks, they will be, like, that's an open invitation to just,
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, I agree with the Blightwalker.
Yep, I do too. So now we're looking at, I don't know, I think an Echo Wisp might not be a bad idea here. Try to force him into leveling an Epidemic because you don't have a lot of other good choices. And then what, a Zix? Like, see, for me, when I see a Zix in my hand, I automatically think I would never want to play this card. But apparently Notherian has it in his deck, ergo he must want to play it at some point.
I'm assuming he wants to play the Zix here. And I think based on what he told us before the match, he might also go with an Echo Wisp here. Just to, he's going to find out if his opponent is going to Epidemic his board or not.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'd be
And if
kinda
he does an
crazy.
Epidemic, then he's going to play every other Echo Wisp later in there's one more in his deck because he had two in his hand. But
All right.
So yeah, I agree with his lane placement too.
Yep. Same.
You want to keep the Zix open for moving around.
All right, so Dark Soul can do some interesting things here and go. He can either Epidemic, or he can drop down another Blightwalker Patriarch, and have a pretty good-looking board.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if he's going to use the Epidemic or not, because it's really going to be a defining choice of this game.
Yeah, it really is.
And then, depending how it goes for him with that choice, we could either see him stick by that choice in later games, or he could completely reverse that if it goes very wrong. Okay, so he does go for the Blightwalker Patriarch.
Yep. I think the Epidemic is a little bit tricky of a choice because it really comes down to if you level those Epidemics, then it becomes a Patriarch War. Does he draw them or not? If he doesn't, you destroy him. If he does, it backfires really badly.
Yep.
I think here I would want to get at least one of these Phoenixes down.
I'm definitely looking to level a Phoenix here. I always want at least one in my deck leveled, for sure.
I think it's interesting that he has to trade it for a Blightwalker. He can't just ignore that Blightwalker.
It's a buff Blightwalker. That damage adds up.
I agree. I think you have to. And then I think you move the Zix out of the way and double attack, right? You don't really want to lose him.
There's no point running him into the Blightwalker for half an attack.
Exactly.
No.
And then after
So what's
that,
his second card?
I don't really know. I mean, I would definitely consider doing the Phoenix. But we are looking at a Patriarch. Patriarch's
dangerous
card
part-
level.
Yeah, he might just want to level the Patriarch. I think the Phoenix would be dangerous in front of the Blightwalker because if Dark Soul has another Patriarch, then
Yeah,
he
he's-
really gets blown right out. So
Right.
you want to wait until that's attacking to take it
Yep.
out.
Any sort of buff, even really. I mean, not. It could be a roar. I don't remember. Does he have roars? Let's see. It's right here. Yes, of course he has roars.
It's right beside the screen.
Yeah, if he didn't have roars, it would be kind of surprising.
Okay,
Alright,
so
so-
Notherian sees his first Rage Board.
There's his one Dreadbolt. Does he level it?
I don't think he's
does.
going to play it. I very much doubt that he'll play it.
I think he plays.
I think he's going to play Succubus,
Yep. And
and I think maybe Blightwalker in lane 3 to
yeah,
knock off the
that's-
Zix.
that is exactly what I think as well.
Yeah. So it's interesting because he's passed on Predators entirely so far.
Yeah, but he doesn't play. I mean, I guess he does play removal, but it's not quite as heavy removal. I'm having kind of a hard time figuring out how Dark Soul is playing this deck. I think what's happened is he's just found all his Blightwalkers a little earlier than he wants, and he doesn't really want to pass on them because then they'll be underleveled and useless. And so I get the feeling he feels compelled to play them more than heavily desiring to play them.
I also think he's not wrong, though. I think those
yeah.
Blightwalkers
I
with
agree.
buffs are going to be defining in this game. And he did play all 3 in player level 1, so that's going to be really brutal on player level 2 when the
kinda
team tries to buff up some guys.
I'm surprised he didn't Succubus there because he had the
Yeah,
choice.
me too.
He could either do Succubus or Predator. They accomplished the exact same thing, and he chose Predator. Maybe it's because he wanted at least one bigger creature in his deck.
I think it has to be.
And the
It's interesting though because I think the Predator's a lot worse if he doesn't have a Succubus level
Yes.
because the Succubus is what's going to allow him to chain killing things in front of the Predator.
Yeah, and the other thing, though, the Succubus is still pretty reasonable under-leveled. You still get some board control, whereas a Predator under-leveled quickly becomes fairly useless.
Yeah, true.
Ooh, so will we see a Rageborn hit the table here?
I honestly, I mean, I think he might have to with this hand.
Uh-huh.
He doesn't have a lot of other threats to level. I think the Rageborn is going to overall.
Yeah, I mean, if he puts Rageborn in 5 and then goes Mystic in 4, he gets some growth on the Hellion, but a Blightwalker kills it no matter what. So
he gets some growth, but it doesn't matter how big it grows. His opponent has 3 leveled Blightwalkers in his deck.
Right. So this to me is what's going to be tough for Notherian is to figure out. I think he would normally do this play, but in this matchup, what is the best play? And so this will be fun to watch Notherian try to work out. I think we're going to see right here what his strategy for the game is going to be. Is it going to be?
I think he goes for it.
To do this. Yep.
I think he goes for it.
Yeah.
I don't really see that he has a lot of other options anyways,
exactly.
to be honest.
If he had other options, I think it would be more interesting for us to try to figure out what's his overall strategy going to be.
Yeah.
All right, so if I am Dark Soul, I think I just play Thundersaurs and giggle with glee that my opponent doesn't have Botanamates.
Yeah, I don't see how you pass on it here. Like, your opponent cannot kill them except with damage. And that's going to be huge later on a 36 toughness, or HP rather, a Thundersaur.
Exactly. And then
it's going to be an unstoppable juggernaut.
Are we thinking we call the Hellion and Thundersaur in front of the Mystic, maybe?
Oh, it's tricky because, I would really be tempted to play the Succubus because I want at least one of those leveled.
I agree, but he hasn't leveled a Cull yet, and I feel like Cull is really foundational to his deck. I really feel like Dark Soul's entire first player level was not what he wanted it to be.
Not what he wanted it to be, but at the same time, I think it will maybe work out.
Oh, yeah, that's the interesting part. Just having those Blightwalkers are going to be amazing, but I think what he would have liked to do is Succubuses and Culls and maybe 2 Blightwalkers, and it's been kind of a weird game for him.
Yeah. Okay, Notherian goes for the second Echo Wisp now in play level 1.
Mm-hmm.
His opponent did not level an Epidemic.
Yep. They'll be very
so those Echo Wisps are going to be golden.
It's going to be really interesting to see if Notherian is able to dominate with those late in the game, if Dark Soul changes up his strategy and goes for Epidemics next game. We'll have to see.
I mean, one of the things that Dark Soul isn't super equipped to handle with his Blightwalkers, etc., is an Echo Wisp 3.
Yeah, exactly.
When it comes down to it.
Let's see. So Dark Soul has seen his only leveled Cull. The question becomes, does he use it here? He could Cull that Mystic, get 10, and then get even more, assuming he gets the...
he gets some breakthrough damage through
yeah.
He can also just cull the Patriarch, and he does. Okay, so Devour plus the Cull. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the Devour is a level behind, but it's still going to be a relevant threat.
Underleveled Devourers are so unimpressive is the problem.
I know, but it doesn't have to grow incredibly large to be useful. It would have to be incredibly large to force like a 3-for-1 in its favor.
Right.
But it doesn't need to be that threat. It can just be an acceptable creature for now. Like, it's an 8/6 already.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with an 8/6.
I think Notherian will end up putting his Thundersaur in front of it to just check him that way. But we are on Dark Soul's hand. He picked up that Epidemic. For a second, I thought he was going the Epidemic route, which seems... I don't really know what his best
I would
play
be
is.
wary. I would be wary of the Epidemic, because if Notherian comes back with a big Patriarch 2, then...
even a Patriarch 1. I mean, it puts
even a Patriarch 1 at that point, yeah.
Yeah,
he can even change it. If he draws both, it's worst case scenario.
It seems like a very odd play to me. I guess he just really wanted to remove that Zix. I think I would have gotten a Succubus to the board there.
Yeah, it's interesting that he's not playing them. Clearly, he has a different idea for the matchup than I do.
And this is a great opportunity, I think, to go Thundersaur in front of the Basher, immediately grow it, if he wants to go that route at all.
Yeah, it's that empty lane Basher. I would have actually considered on Dark Souls turn playing the Basher, doing combat, and then Epidemicing.
Yeah.
To kill the Zix and not have the Basher left behind.
Right. So now the question becomes, what does he do about this Devour? Is he just ignoring it, or is he sticking the Thundersaur in front of it? Is he roaring like an Echo Wisp 1 roar 2? Getting a Roar 3 in his deck with Echo Wisps leveled is
Yeah.
going to be incredibly powerful later.
That's what I was going to say. I think he needs to play the Roar 2 to get into Roar 3 to go with the Echo Wisp.
Yeah.
Because that is a play that can win the game.
Yeah, it really feels like a good, solid aggro play. As Notherian already said, he's running this more aggro, and Dark Soul's going to definitely be more the control player here. So I think Dark Soul definitely plays Blightwalker and Thunder.
Oh, yeah. Too. I mean, that Rage Mode was finally getting some size on him to really do some work, and there it goes. It's gone.
Yep.
Problem handled.
Exactly, and that's going to be Notherian's challenge, I think, this game, is to figure out how much can he buff these guys, or can he buff them at all, really, and count on it.
Well, I like that he has the Echo Wisp 3 plus Roar 3 in his deck now. That gives him a real solid alternate avenue to winning this game than with just playing normal creatures.
Exactly.
And I think he needs to have that in his deck to have a chance.
So
that is a sad Echo Wisp in front of that Thundersaur.
Yeah, I think at this point you have to ignore that Blightwalker, and do Mystic, and maybe I'd be tempted to open lane Zix in 2 and take.
I would open lane Zix. I don't think the Rageborn is going to be very relevant at this point, underleveled, and with so many strong answers to it in Dark Souls deck. I mean, I think he has to go with 6.
You could block the Basher with Zix to prevent 10 damage. That's
interesting.
Really surprising.
Well, at the same time, that Echo Wisp versus that Thundersaur was a losing situation because that Thundersaur was going to do over 30 damage.
Yep.
As it was.
Definitely.
Oh, and the aggressive gets punished by the Blightwalker immediately.
Yep. Those Blightwalkers are just.
I hate that about Ashurian Mystic. I hate that about it.
Yeah.
I mean, aggressive is great, but at the same time, it backfires. Feels to me most of the time whenever I try an aggressive card.
Yeah, I think I'd be tempted to play the Patriarch if I was Dark Soul, just to get a little buff on the Thundersaur, so that he's able to make it a little bit harder if Notherian has tricks for Zix to take out that Thundersaur by himself without taking much damage.
Yeah, and he does play it, which I agree with. I mean, he buffs both Blightwalkers as well. Yeah. And, I mean, the Notherian's plan on the lane 1 Blightwalker to this point was ignore it.
Right.
So any buff there is just going to translate into more free damage.
Exactly. The question is, does Notherian have a way to handle this Thundersaur?
I don't think he does.
I don't think he does either.
Not a good one, at least.
I mean, can you really ignore a 9 damage Thundersaur? I mean, that...
I think he has to, because if he tries to do anything about it, it becomes a 20 damage Thundersaur.
But the problem is he doesn't have outs.
That's still alive.
He has no outs to handle it, though. That's the real issue. Like, what is he?
Yeah, there's nothing. I don't know what he does about it.
Yeah, I really don't understand. I think I think maybe he has to out aggro him, but the board isn't set up to out aggro him. I'm very confused here as to how Notherian deals with this Thundersaur. And so if I'm Dark Soul, if I have a way to buff that Thundersaur, I am doing that. But he doesn't, so that's good for Notherian.
We just see the 2.4 Phoenix.
Wow.
In Notherian's hand.
Ooh.
Oh, but the level 3 Thundersaur comes down.
Yep.
In front of the Zix.
Did you say a 2.4 Phoenix? I think you meant a 3.1 Phoenix.
Oh, my screen was lagging. My bad.
Yep. So now he's
that's much less good.
the level 3 Thundersaur, and now he's gonna go level 3 Blightwalker, and I dare say I think Notherian is in some serious trouble.
I don't see outs.
I mean, he will be able to do 14 damage here from the Zix. That's great.
That's good, but I don't know where he's gonna find the rest of the damage he needs.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the Thundersaur to absorb a little. That's something. All right, look at that. He's going.
All right, he's going for it on the
Max
Zix.
Aggro.
I like that. That's the only way he has out here. I mean, his leveled cards in his deck are a collection of, he's got Hellion, Mystic, some Patriarchs that he hasn't really played, some level 2 Zixes, and then those Echo Wisps and the 1 Roar.
Yep.
The Echo Wisp and the Roar does not beat the Thundersaurs at this point. So he really just has to get 30 damage as soon as possible.
And
he's at 5 life. I mean,
right, he is dead.
He's dead at this point. He's got nothing.
Yeah, he loses here, but he does a little damage on the way out to make it a close game. All right, so
Yeah, got him down to 17.
That's game 1. Dark Soul is the victor. Guys, don't start your game just yet because we're going to do a very quick giveaway. After every game, we're going to do a giveaway. So I'm going to go ahead and oh my, I have a lot of windows here, so this is probably going to mess
Right.
up.
We have some codes for those of you watching in the audience.
Yeah, we have 5 giveaways today. So let me open up my dashboard.
I'm assuming
here.
we also have an invite to the Metamart Invitational.
Yes, we have
giveaway?
2 invites to the Metamart
2 invites.
Invitational
All
today.
right.
And we also have 3 codes to give away. So we have all kinds of stuff. And unfortunately, it's getting weird, and I can actually mute.
New Special K protein
So,
cereal helps
you're
keep you
welcome.
fuller
You guys
longer.
getting advertised.
Willpower. What will you gain when you
I
lose?
can't figure out how to get to my dashboard from here. Here we go. No, that's not going to do it. Sorry about this. This is unexpected with the small twitch. Here we go. I should be able to get there now.
Yeah, bear with us, guys. We have a lot of windows open. That's just
Yeah,
a
I
fact.
have so many windows open. It's hard to even fathom.
Across 2 and 3 screens. There's just stuff everywhere. You're
Yeah.
trying to keep tabs on this shared window and this other shared window and the stream chat and like.
Okay, let's see where's that box? Am I not logged into this box? Where are you? There we are. Here's the gift box. Okay, so if you want to qualify for the giveaway, type in hashtag Dark Soul, and that will qualify you for the giveaway, for the first giveaway. If you'd like to win a giveaway at any point during the Forge, please go ahead and be a follower of the stream. I really hate to have unfortunate problems where people are not followers and then are unable to win. So just put in hashtag Dark Soul since he is the winner of the first one, and that will qualify you. So you guys can go ahead and start the second game if you'd like, and we will have this going. People can type in this during the game.
Yeah, makes sense. So, Tiny, that game went sort of how we discussed. What do you think Notherian is going to try and do differently this game?
I don't know. That's the problem, right? Like, I was able to see how Dark Soul is going to win. I was not able to see how Notherian was going to win, and this is what I'm excited to see. What is Notherian going to do to alter his strategies so that he can win? I mean, it's basically he doesn't have an answer to Thundersaur. And I have to think that when he was building this, he thought he would have an answer to Thundersaur. And I think he thought he could just outrace Thundersaur with his aggro because he would be building up guys. But like he said, this matchup's really, really tough for him. So I'm more just watching at this point to see what Notherian's going to do. Do you have any predictions of how Notherian is going to win this?
I mean, I think part of his plan when he built the deck was that he's going to go around Thundersaurs.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to get out of the way with Zix or even with Mystic. He stick Fervent Assault, move it over. I don't know how successful it's going to be because there's going to be Blightwalkers waiting to pop down in that lane and knock out whatever buffed guy he moves. And with Fervent Assault involved, yeah, you also lose a card there.
Yeah, that's an interesting play. I'm not sure if he only made that play because he didn't like his other choices. Oh wow, is he gonna enrage also and just go full aggro?
Wow, that would surprise me.
All right, so Notherian has realized old plan wasn't working. We're gonna have an entirely new, possibly insane plan. So I really like this. This is a new way to handle this, and we'll see what Dark Soul does if he has a good reaction to this. All in.
Well,
I mean,
he doesn't have a Blightwalker in his hand.
Right.
He doesn't have a Blightwalker in his hand.
But he doesn't have it. I think I Patriarch here and probably Succubus.
I think I Succubus and then Patriarch.
Yeah.
I think the Devourer plan is not great. It doesn't race that effectively against this all-in pedal to the middle aggro from the Notherian that he's going to be trying here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Succubus plan is much better.
So
what does Notherian do here now?
I
definitely think he plays Echo Wisp, because.
I think he
enrages.
But
yeah, you think so?
Oh,
Set up the 4-for-1.
I don't know.
There's still no Blightwalker in Dark Soul's hand.
If you're asking me if I would enrage here, not a chance. But
I wouldn't have enraged the first
right,
time.
exactly. Like that's what I'm so impressed by. You know, Therian's just like, all right, it wasn't working. New plan. It might
New
look
plan.
crazy.
I'm adapting.
Oh,
Yeah, okay. I think Roar is more reasonable though.
yeah, I totally
Yeah,
agree.
I do agree that Roar is more reasonable.
Yes, I think Roar is a totally fine choice. I think that is slightly dangerous to put him in front of the Thundersaur because it opens him up to a lot of ways for that Thundersaur to grow, whether it be
I think
Epidemic or I guess it would need to be a double Roar, but an Epidemic's really rough for him right here.
Epidemic might come down here.
I think it.
I think it
definitely
might
does.
happen this time. I don't know how you pass that up. Have the attacking 10 power Thundersaur unopposed that he's going to have to put a guy in front of.
Yeah, I think that play is really really good for Dark Soul.
Yeah, I think so. I
Unfortunately,
mean, he still has a Succubus trigger as well.
yeah,
So he can knock off that other Echo Wisp, or he can shrink the Patriarch.
yeah. I mean, culling the Patriarch is perfect.
I mean, that's a 3-for-1 when it comes down to it,
Exactly.
minus the damage. Obviously, the Patriarch did damage for value, but in terms of actual cards, that's a 3-for-1.
Yeah, and now that we look at the board, I mean, Notherian has dropped pretty far behind with that decision process, and we'll have to see if he can square this board away.
You know, that turn was actually okay for him, considering that he was down 4 creatures to none.
I
It was
agree.
important that he take the Succubus off the board, otherwise the Thundersaur was dead in the water.
Yes, and the problem is Dark Soul is just going to keep just plowing those Thundersaurs to the board and basically saying you need to have a good turn every turn or these Thundersaurs are just going to run you over. So what's your answer going to be to the Thundersaur?
Yeah, I mean, that Blightwalker has been buffed to the point that it's a 5/9. That is a clock at this point, because Notherian is already down to 51 life.
Oh my goodness. He's got the level 2 Echo Wisp going, but the question will be, can he get to level 3? Last time we saw, I don't think we got to player level 3, right?
We made it there, but it ended in 3.1 or 3.2. One of their turns. I believe in the second turn of 3.1.
Right.
It ended.
All right, so I just rolled off the first prize. The first prize is going to go to PTK Tempo.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations, sir. And I don't have the window open for the code. I don't have a way to get it open, but so I'm just going to send you an email that says code coming via Twitch. So your code will be coming later in the stream or after the stream, probably.
Yeah, we have you marked down BTK, so we'll just hand them out after.
Yep.
When we're not quite so occupied.
All right, so Dark Souls.
Okay, so he roars again. Dark Soul is really buffing very heavily.
Yeah,
It's very much just a Patriarch roar game
Yep.
with guys that are incidentally good against Notherian's deck. The Blightwalker and Succubus all came down, the Thundersaurs. And finally a Devour, but look at that Devour. It's been down one turn. It's already at 9/7,
Yeah.
which normally isn't huge, but in this case, Notherian only has 38 life and is down almost all 5 lanes.
Yeah, Notherian really needed a good hand there, I feel like.
He's actually dead
To have a
after
really
combat.
shot at
Dark Soul just needs to press battle.
that. Yep. All right. Well, that's game 2. So let's do another giveaway.
That was a fast one.
We're gonna give away a Metamart invite right now to their invitational. So if you want to qualify for the invitational, which is going to be pretty amazing, it's unlegendary. First prize is an iPad. Type in hashtag Metamart, and that will get you qualified for this next drawing for the Metamart Invitational giveaway. So Notherian promised us. He promised us he wasn't.
He
gonna get
promised us
swept.
5 games. Yeah, he said
So-
no 3-0.
So I expect him. I don't know what it's going to be that he does, but he's going to do something amazing here.
Yeah, I think he needs something amazing here. I mean, I picked Dark Soul to win because I think his deck has a pretty big advantage, in my opinion. I know you agree. Yeah, I don't know. It's a really tough spot.
Yep, I fully agree. When I got both of the lists, I looked at them and I said, "Oh, I love Notherian's deck." Now his was the first deck I got, and then
Right,
I got
yep.
Dark Souls deck, and I said, "Oh no, that looks like the direct counter to Notherian's awesome-looking deck." So we'll see if Notherian has some tricks up his sleeve. If anyone has tricks up their sleeve, it is the Notherian.
Yep, absolutely.
All right,
Okay,
so-
he leads off with the Echo Wisp directly.
Yep.
You know, he knows that that's going to have to be a big part of the plan if he's going to win this game.
Yeah, I feel like his major plan has to be to hope Dark Soul doesn't draw Thunder Sword.
Yeah, and you know, Dark Soul only has 2 Thunder Swords in his deck. He's
I
not
know.
running all 3.
He was really working them last game. So the question here is, do you play Blightwalker? He was so successful game 1, or do you go with a different strategy here if you're a Dark Soul?
I think you definitely play Devour, which he did. Okay,
Hmm. I think you go,
because that's the only real threat. Predator doesn't impress me so much in this matchup.
Yep, I agree. I think Blightwalker
Yeah.
is the answer here.
I think you do just level the Blightwalker. I mean, you know, the Basher, putting a Basher into half an Echo Wisp is not an impressive play in
Yeah.
the slightest.
Yep, and I would put him in 5 as well to make it a little harder for him, for Notherian to put out his Echo Wisp. So that looks
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, especially if you think that Theron's going to be on the Echo Wisp plan, because you've dismantled the rest of his deck so efficiently.
Right.
I definitely do that kind of lane placement.
Yep. I mean, if I'm Notherian here, I'm thinking about maybe Phoenix 5, Echo Wisp 2, 3, and just start filling the board with dudes and hoping that... I mean, the danger, though, is he puts down a
The
Thunder
problem-
Sword.
The problem with Echo Wisp 2-3 here is that he gets utterly blown out by Epidemic, and that Devour gets triggers off the entire board.
That's true. So perhaps a better play is to go Phoenix 1 and then a Roar. That's very
That
interesting.
may just be better.
Hmm.
Well, you know, I actually like Phoenix too. Actually,
Yeah.
you take the 7 damage. You still have the option to trade the Phoenix for the Devour next turn.
Mhm.
You just move him in if you need to. But hopefully you can, you just use the Phoenix aggressively rather than having
Yeah.
to trade it off the Devour.
That's true. Oh, does it look like Dark Soul's actually going to play his 1 Dreadbolt here? Nope. He just hates that card so much. He's having a hard time deciding. I think that's the right play.
Oh, here it goes.
Yeah, his hand was so constrained there. He didn't have a lot of choices, I don't think.
No, I mean, it's a 5-spell hand in a deck that really never wants to play more than 1 spell a turn.
Yeah.
And most turns doesn't actually want to play spells at all,
Right.
is the truth.
All right, so I'm going to go
But,
ahead and roll off this prize. This prize is going to go to Ban Tim. So Ban Tim, you have gotten a Metamart invite.
All right, we're getting some players into that thing. Ban Tim has been on some lists. I know
I've
that.
heard of
for
Ban
sure.
Tim.
Oh yeah, me too.
I'm kind of hoping they ban him from the constructed queue, actually.
That's the list I've seen him on. Coincidentally.
All right, so let's see. What does Dark Soul do here? Notherian has the Thunder Sword down.
The Thunder Sword down, ready to kill.
I mean, does he
Epidemic
Epidemic
knocks
here?
it out.
Yeah, I think Epidemic's good because then it makes the Devour an 11-9. I think he's considering putting another Devour down first before the Epidemic.
Yeah, I think he also might put Blightwalker in front of the Echo Wisp. Oh, okay, he chooses to level the Devour in front of the Echo Wisp.
Interesting.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Well, he doesn't want to take 12 damage from that Echo Wisp again when it's so easy to kill,
I agree.
but he decides to level the big threat instead of the Blightwalker.
Yeah, I think that's.
So,
the way
I mean,
to
I
go,
can
right?
I can respect that.
Yep, I think he's got a pretty good board state going.
I think he can get away with stuff like that.
Yep.
You know, he could probably handle the Hellions and whatnot that Notherian's trying to do
Yep.
without dedicating all his cards played
Right.
to doing that. So he can get away with some threats.
Right, and he gets the
Yeah, okay,
Blightwalker
there's the Blightwalker to roll the
and a lid
Hellion right
sequence,
out.
so that's best case scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, would it maybe have been better to let it die so that the Devourer gets 1 bigger?
Yeah, one bigger would be really nice on that Devour.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually had he thought about that really carefully about what's in Notherian's deck, he has
Yeah.
nothing at 10 that kills the
But
Devourer.
he does have Patriarch
but he
2
does
at
have
9.
Patriarch. So I think if he had that to do over again, he'd probably do that slightly differently and let him die.
Yeah, I think so. At the same time, now he has that little Blightwalker that's going to get some major buffs this turn from that Patriarch 2.
Yeah, for sure. So that. Oh, yeah.
So there's a level 2 Devourer as expected. I expect the Patriarch 2 as well. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. So now he's on the Devourer plan, and Notherian looks like his aggro plan is working much better this game.
I think it is. The life totals are much closer, and he is coming in for 16 here.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a big
With
chunk
the
of life.
roar.
Make that 22 with the roar.
Exactly. So he's got a pretty good board state. Dark Soul has sort of gone away from his plan this game. Well, I mean, not intentionally, I don't think. He just didn't draw the Thunder Swords this game. So he had to go to the alternate threat in the Devourer, which I think is a little bit easier for Notherian to handle than a Thunder Sword.
A little bit, but at the same time, that 1917 Devourer is huge.
Yeah, but the
Notherian has the Thunder Sword.
Exactly, it handles it quite well. He still gets aggro damage. So do you Basher here or do you Roar here?
I would Basher here. I don't think he can just take 18 for no reason.
That's my thought too. Aggro is nice and all, but I think he has to take a moment and clean that up first, and then get back to the aggro.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the aggro is good, but if you're doing 12 to the guy and he's doing 18 to you, that's not successful aggro.
Yeah, and this is an unfortunate spot for him because I feel like the Hellion is not that great in this match.
There's the Dreadbolt. He leveled the Dreadbolt, and it saved him in his
Dreadbolt paid off. I think that Dreadbolt probably won this game, actually.
Won the game. One of Dreadbolt. Never plays it.
Dark
Finally
Soul
leveled it.
and his one-off Dreadbolt. And actually, Dark Soul has 2 wins right now, right?
He does. This will be it.
Not sure why the 1 has been up there.
I mean,
come on, Notherian. You can do
he
it.
has no answers. He has no answers to that Devourer at this
I'm
point.
still confident Notherian will win.
It's 2 combat steps away from being able to one-shot a level 3 Thundersword, which is the only card that Notherian has to stand up to it.
Yep, I think Notherian has some pretty dire straits here.
Yeah, he's on the edge of the ropes. Although, Dark Soul has level 1 hand. He's really just that Devourer at this point.
Still, the problem is by leveling the Hellions, they're so unimpressive. Like, he has a level 3 amazing card in his hand that's just terrible.
It does nothing.
Spot.
It does nothing here.
Yep.
And there's the GG.
Yep. So it looks like our champion today is, in fact, Dark Soul SP. So let's go ahead and bring him on for a moment here and have a brief chat with him. We have to put his picture up though here. So
Imrahil, that will teach the Notherian to send people crappy Willbringers.
Oh, poor Notherian. Let's see, almost done here. Let's bring this up. There we go. We have to do this again. If we're gonna bring on Dark Soul, we have to at least have his champion.
Absolutely. It's his team song.
All right, Dark Soul, come on back.
All right. Geez, I got the revenge. It was good.
You definitely won that game. So in your first game especially, I'm curious, were you hoping to level all 3 Blightwalkers like that, or was it more of just, well, I don't want to pass on them, I'm seeing them early?
It was definitely the latter. Like, I know that first hand I had like a Basher in my hand as my other creature. It's like, well, that's a slam dunk Blightwalker right there. And then just seeing the Blightwalker Patriarch in the next hand was also like, well, this is too good to pass up. And yeah, like, it just kind of happened. I don't prefer to play like that. Had I had the option, I definitely would have played my Devourers or even like Predators if possible. But yeah, I mean, it worked out that way. So
yeah, it was interesting that those Blightwalkers were such a hard counter to Notherian's deck, and then you being forced to play them really messed with Notherian's strategy.
Yeah. It definitely wouldn't have worked out, or it did work out in a different way than I would have thought. So
yeah, and then game 2 was interesting because it was completely different. It was Thundersoar crushing night and day.
Yeah, it's just looking at his list, or just just the basis. It's like it seems really difficult for him to get rid of Thundersoar. I don't know if he plays like Lightning Sparks or anything. Like, obviously I didn't see any, but it just seemed like he was such a good answer, or a really good progressive threat. So I definitely wanted to play them down if possible.
Yeah, it looked like you pretty much played everyone you got to the board, and
Yeah.
I think Notherian's plan was to walk around them, but you were able to play them against aggressive creatures and buff them, and they just got out of control so fast.
Yeah, I tell you, I feel really in that last game because, to be very honest, I think that was the game I should have lost. I think, I mean, had I not had that Dreadbolt at that one moment, I think his board would have been just a little bit too much for me to handle. But that Devourer went crazy just because of that Dreadbolt. So.
Yeah, I believe you proved your theory correct that one Dreadbolt is all you need if you draw it at the right time.
Exactly. Yeah, I definitely. I wouldn't. I can't like recommend one Dreadbolt to everyone, but I felt that in this type of deck, it had enough, proactive removal with succubuses, epidemics, Coals, that I felt like just one was enough. So.
All right. Well, that's great. Well, congratulations, sir, for winning episode 2 of The Forge. We will send you your lavish prize soon, and I'm sure we will be.
Is it a Thundersaur? That would be great, actually.
I
am down a Thundersaur. I only have 2.
It might be a Woebringer.
I can probably get you a Woebringer.
That would be even better. I
could probably promise you a Thundersaur and get you a Woebringer.
That sounds even better.
Doesn't that sound great?
I'm a big fan. And actually, Notherian, if you're still on, great games. And really, tons of respect for you. That was definitely not the best matchup for you, but I definitely had a lot of fun, and you had some really interesting, cool plays. It was really fun to test them out and see how it went.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining the Forge, and we will invite you back at some point for our Champion Series, which will come a little bit later in the season after we have crowned more champions.
That sounds great to me. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Darksoul.
And that wraps up this episode of The Forge. So stay tuned next week when 2 enter and 1 emerges champion and 1 leaves battered, beaten, and bruised.